Hello everyone. In today's session, we will learn about molding and casting. We will learn what is molding and casting, what are they used for, what are these different processes, what are different types of molding and casting processes, what are their industrial applications, what materials are used for molding and casting, what are different applications of the same, and specifically we will see what molding and casting can be used for creating some art and craft type projects. So going forward, we will see that up to learn about molding and casting, we are going to use CAD, that is computer aided design. We will do some 3D design using some softwares. We have used these softwares earlier, so we will design these softwares using Tinkercad. We will print the objects, we will print the molds, we will see what molds are, but we are going to use CAD, we are going to use 3D printing and other processes. So we are going to create, these molds and castings. So in this example that you see on the screen, we have created a mold to create a casting of the land terrain nearby our do-it-yourself lab in Pune. So we'll see what these molds and castings are. So before we going further, let's talk about what is molding. Molding is a process of manufacturing by shaping liquid material inside a rigid frame. Their molds are basically made using models of the final object. Say for example, if you want to make something using molding and casting, you need to basically have a computer aided designed model that you can have to create the mold. So basically, what materials can be poured into the molds are basically silicone, rubber, plastic, glass. Molds are made themselves using wood, MDF, machinable wax, and many other things. Talking about casting, so casting is a manufacturing process wherein liquid material is usually poured into the mold. So as you can see the picture on the bottom left, so that's the mold, that's the box that is called as a mold, in which the liquid metal is poured, and it takes the desired shape before it solidifies, and it gets solidified and takes the shape. On the right hand side, you can see that there is a mold inside which a chocolate has been casted. So this is basically a casting process. So metal casting processes, they are known for thousands of years. I mean, human beings are using the casting processes, since long ago, and they have been widely used for creating, sculptures, jewelry. As you can see the picture on the bottom right, so these jewelries are made using castings, and then there are some manufacturing parts, like for example, machine tool blades, propellers, engine parts, then weapons, tools. All these parts can be manufactured using casting processes. So these are used in this type of industry. So this picture is basically a representation of molding. As you can see on this picture, the left side is the object that you want to create. So you have created a model. Then on the second picture from the left is basically you pour something on top of that to create a negative mold. That's the green part that you can see. So you have created a mold around that object. And once that mold is created, that green, the third picture where you have poured the red material, that is a casting material that you have poured. Once the casting material gets solidified or cooled, you get the desired casting. That is the fourth picture from the left. So we will see some videos about what different types of molding processes are. These are injection molding, blow molding, and rotational molding. We will see those videos in detail now. Now, the different types of materials being used for molding. The first one that you see on the top is flex wax. It can easily take any shape, as one can also impress a thumb, and it takes the shape of the thumb. The second material that is typically used for molding is the silicone rubber. So this is synthetic rubber. It's a silicone rubber, and the third one on the bottom, the bottom right, is machinable wax. So it's wax, but you can make different shapes, create different designs on that wax, but it can be machined on computer control machines. So you can create these molds. Then materials used for casting. So you can use epoxy resin, you can use insta mold, it's just like plaster of Paris. Then you can also use hydrostone. It's also like a plaster of Paris. So you can use these materials for molding and casting. So these different materials are available in the market. But in today's session, for us, we will use wax. We will use 3D printing for creating molds, and we will use wax for casting as a material. But before we go further, I just wanted to show you this picture. Different materials. So we have used this white is a mold, so that's made out of silicone rubber. But first picture on the top left, wherein we have used epoxy resin as a casting material. On the bottom side, if you can see that we have used hydrostone insta mold as a casting material. So there are different types of materials can be used in the same mold to create different types of castings. So steps of molding and casting. So we have created a negative mold using the machinable wax. Then I have poured the silicone rubber on the top right picture. Out of the we have let the silicone rubber mold get solidified, and then we have poured the epoxy resin material inside that mold. So that's how we have created the casting, the epoxy resin casting that you can see on the bottom left picture. So these are typical steps: creating, designing a mold, creating a mold, then pouring a casting material and getting the casting. So what are we going to do today? So we are going to basically use CAD and 3D printing, and we are going to design some parts, design our own molds. So we get these type of molds in the shop. We can buy these molds, but in today's session you will learn how to design these molds yourself as per your choice. You can make different shapes like this Christmas tree, star, then you can make heart, and we are also going to create some terrain map of your using Google Maps. So steps we follow, basically we are going to create or design our molds using Tinkercad. We are going to 3D print these molds using our 3D printers, and we will select the casting material for object making. But to make it easy for you, we are going to use wax, simple wax that we get out of candles. So we are going to use wax as a casting material in today's session. Then we will liquefy the casting material. We will make liquid out of that material using heating method, and then we will pour that into the molds and get our castings. So these are steps that we are going to follow. So how should our 3D printed molds be? When we need to take the castings easily out of the mold. So our 3D printing molds should be flexible. They should the walls should be thin. They need not be sturdy and hard. So the wall thickness of the mold need to be as minimum as possible. And we can 3D print the molds as a one unit or separate parts to join together, so that we can easily take the parts away and take the casting out. So whatever I'm talking right now, you will be able to understand more in details as we go further. So this is how we are designing our molds. So let's get going. We will see what different materials that we need, what different tools that we need to do this activity. So in this picture, as you can see, that we have already designed and 3D printed few molds. We will need candle, basically to use wax as a casting material. We will also need one utensil and a spoon, and to hold that utensil, we will also need a kind of gripper. Then we will use the hot air gun to melt the wax and pour into the molds to create the required castings. So these are different material that we are going to use for this activity. Now let's design our molds in Tinkercad. So we will start with some basic shapes. We are going to make one hollow star. So we have taken, we have selected this shape from the standard shapes that are available in Tinkercad. We are going to basically make that star shape hollow from inside. That is what the prerequisite of designing the mold, so that the wall of the mold is going to be thin and flexible. So we have taken one as a solid star and another as a hollow star, and then we are going to group them to create this particular shape. that's the hollow star from inside. So we are modifying the design to look it more uniform from all the sides. Now we have taken one more shape, one more plate, change the dimensions as per your requirement. The shape of the dimensions of the shapes that you are going to create need not be more than 40-50 millimeters or 60 or 70 millimeters maximum. So we are going to create one base plate of 1 millimeter thickness. It should, so that it should be very flexible. So the star is going to basically stay on top of that plate. So this is one particular mold. So save this as a STL file. Another design that we are going to create is basically a cylindrical shape that is also going to be hollow from inside. Make the desired dimensions, or make the shape as per the desired dimensions. Same thing again, one as a whole, one as a solid surface, and group them together so that the shape becomes hollow from inside, just like this cylinder hollow from inside. Now again we are going to use a star, make it hollow, or make these walls thin from outside. Why we are going to do these designs, and why we are going to basically need the flexible thin walls is, we'll share that reason after some time. So we are going to take another cylinder and make its height very thin so that we can use it as a base plate. So assemble this star on top of that thin base plate, just like this. This is the second mold that we are going to use in our session today, in our activity. You can rename it as per your choice. Save it as STL file. That is the second design. Another design that we are going to make is a Christmas tree. So we have taken this triangular shape, adjust it as per the required dimension. Then same thing we are going to do, make it hollow from inside. So make one cylinder triangle as a hole and one as a solid, and group them together. You will get the hollow triangle. So we are going to again need two more similar objects, so you can copy and simply paste them, overlap them just like what you can see on the screen. Then third triangle, we need to take the middle part away. So you take one cube, make it as a hole, and group them together so that it will create that slot. Same thing you can do for the second part. You can create a hole and group them together so that you will get that slot, just like this. Okay, so take that away in case you are not able to do that completely. Change the dimensions and redo that. So we are going to get that Christmas tree shape like this. You can remove that middle part as well. Whichever has been remaining as extra part, you can remove them. You can verify the design by using all the keyboard commands, view, rotate. All those commands can be, you have already practicing those commands in Tinkercad. So check the design. Now, after verifying that your design is good enough, we are going to create one more slot there, and add one more thin walls around those two openings, and you can simply copy them as well, or you can create them. Okay, you can group all these together. So that's how our Christmas tree is ready. You can save this as a STL file. You can choose dimensions of your choice. You can make it a little thinner if you want, you can make it a little wider so that it looks appropriate. Aspect ratio need to be good enough. You can rename it as per your choice. You can rename it as a Christmas tree in Tinkercad. Save as STL file. Export that as an STL file, so that we can print that in 3D printer. Now we need to create a base plate for this Christmas tree. So use another shape, place that around that Christmas tree, and take the dimensions, make it a little thinner, and save as STL. Now we will see another interesting feature. Can we create a mold of a land terrain, land of our around our school, around our lab, around our home? Can we see that land the way it looks into the Google Maps? So for that, search, go to Google and search how to print the land surfaces, land terrain, and you will see that there is a link. Go to terrain to STL site, then go to the this website, terrain to STL. Zoom into your area. Now, right now we are showing you the map of Pune, where our lab is located. Use these operations, change the dimension of the box, so that we are going to create a mold or a casting of that particular area. So selecting that area of our lab, and then generate a model, and then downloading that model as a STL. Go to Tinkercad and create a new design in Tinkercad and import that model that we have just generated out of the terrain land. So this is how our land looks like around our lab. So there are hills, there are slopes. All the hills around our lab can be, you can print them as a mold, and you can create a casting out of that mold. So we are just changing the dimension of that terrain. We are rotating that 180-degree upside down, taking one more box, because this mold of terrain, we need to create the negative of that mold, so that we get the casting of exactly just like our terrain. So take another box, change the dimensions to match exactly just like that imported STL, matching the dimension of the imported STL. Then bring that imported STL down into that red box, make it a group, create a whole of that imported STL of the terrain should be whole, and group them together, so that this is a land that you see. This is a opposite of that map, so that when we pour the wax material inside it, it will be a positive mold of that shape. So import it, rename it, and we are also going to need, we will change the dimensions. We will enlarge that little bit. We are also going to need some thin plates, to cover around that mold, so that we can take the casting easily out when we pour the wax and the wax is solidified. After the wax is solidified, we will just take these red plates, or when they are printed, we will just take these plates out and take the wax casting of the terrain land easily. So save that as STL. So our 3D printed model of STL, sorry, the STL file for the 3D printed model of our terrain land is ready. Now we are going to go to the 3D printer and print the terrain map of our lab. So these are different molds that we have printed all together. Then same material as we have shown you together. You can use electronics also, some electronics to decorate, LED and crayons we are going to use to color the castings. So first, this is one 3D printed mold. So what we are going to do is, it is made up of two halves, two parts. We are going to close it using the masking tape. There is one hole on that one part of that heart shape mold. You can see that hole. We are going to cut the candle. We are going to cut the wax, put that into the pot or vessel, clean the working area. Then take one colored crayon. We have taken pink colored crayon, put that into the pot, use the hot air gun carefully, so that you are going to use the clamp, you are going to use that gripper, you are going to wear the protective equipments like hand gloves all the time, so that you don't get your fingers burned. Melt the wax as well, so the wax crayon as well, so that it will take that color. Mix it properly using spoon. So this is how our molten, take the threads out. So this is how our molten wax will look like. Pour that into the 3D printed mold. Through that hole, we are going to pour the molten wax carefully, so that, and allow it to settle, allow it to cool down, keep it aside. Now the terrain land mold. So these plates, put hot glue all around that map, all around that mold, and join these plates on from 4 sides of the mold. After all 4 sides are done, now close the corners. So put hot glue on the corners, so that corners are also sealed properly. So once you pour the wax, it will not come out of that gap. So we are going to use brown crayon, so that it will look like land. So cut it onto the wooden part. Take wax, put that brown crayon, and make the molten wax as a brown color. Mix it properly. Now pour it into the land terrain mold, so that you will see how your land around your lab will look like, around your school, around your in your town, it will look like. Allow it to settle. Now another mold that we have taken, apply hot glue gun on that heart shape mold on the base plate. Pour wax also into that. Allow both these castings to get cool down and settle. Now that star shape, on that thin bottom plate, we are gluing that cylinder, the hollow cylinder, all around. Putting the star mid inside, we are pouring the molten wax. Here in this case, we are just using the white wax, so that we are going to use some lights inside this. So now the Christmas tree. So apply hot glue all around the walls of the Christmas tree, the thin wall. You will understand why thin walls are needed. Put the masking tape, and green color we have used of the crayon, so that Christmas tree will look like green. Pour the molten wax into the Christmas tree mold. Pour it properly and uniformly. All our molds are ready. They are getting cooled down and settled. So keep it aside. So we have created a mold of and casting of Christmas tree, two heart shapes, one then land terrain and a star. So we have kept them aside. Now we are opening the cool down casting. So open the, this is how our casting, the mold of that heart shape will look like in the casting. Now take the hot glue out, press the solidified casting carefully. Just apply some little bit pressure, otherwise it will break down because it is made up of wax. A mold and a casting. So we have put them side by side, so that you can visualize. Now this third casting, if it was a thick wall, it would be difficult to take the wax casting out. So that's why we have made the thin wall molds and the flexible base plate, so that we can take them out. We have taken this as well. You can use this as a candle. You can insert you could have inserted a thread. Now a land terrain. Take these 4 side plates out. Take the hot glue out. Take these plates out, and then take the land terrain out of the mold. We will show the other mold that we have done, the star. In this mold, you will get two castings, one the inside star and one, yeah. So take the parts easily out. You can, tap them carefully. Don't tap it, hard so that it will break. So press the parts gently. If needed, you can use this is how it will look like. If needed, you can use paper cutter just like this around the middle star, so that the middle star will be taken out carefully and easily. After this, the middle star, the thin wall of that middle star, easily you can take the casting out. This is how it will look like. So you get two castings from the one mold. So the middle star and the hollow star can also be used to decorate something. So these are two different craft stars you made just out of wax from the candle. Now Christmas tree, this is little delicate, so take proper care. It may break, but if you take proper care, you will be able to take it out. You could have inserted LEDs already into the molding. So we are taking the thin walls easily out, and this is how our Christmas tree casting will look like. You can put the LEDs. You could have already added LEDs into the molding itself. These are our different molds and castings. We have just kept them all put together. On the bottom middle part, you can see that the green one is our land terrain. The purple one was our mold of the land terrain. So we have all the castings. So this is how our land terrain will look like, the green one on the bottom. Now, just to decorate it, we have added some LEDs. You can, put the LEDs together and brighten them. Decorate it simply as a, craft decorative item. We have added some happy birthday 3D printed part, and it looks like as a cake. So this is a craft you can make simply as a craft. So that's how you can make different. So in today's session, we learned how to design our own molds, how to 3D print them, how to create our own castings using wax. So I hope you loved this session, how to make different craft items as per your choice, and 3D print the molds, and create castings out of using wax. So if you have any questions, put them on the channel. So thank you very much for watching this session. I am sure you will be able to rebuild reproduce this session, reproduce these molds, reproduce these castings at your own end, and create. I want to see that you create different shapes, different molds, and in next week you can share those pictures of your beautiful castings. And thank you very much.